They are acting strange around you. Do not deny it. You felt it. That cold little shift in the air when you walked into the room. The laughter that stopped just a half second too late. The eye contact that lasted just a half second too short. The friend who used to call, who now just watches your stories and says nothing. Oh, you noticed, and you told yourself, maybe I am imagining it. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Maybe it is just a phase. Ha! That is exactly what they want you to think. I know this feeling better than I know my own reflection. And trust me, I have stared at that reflection for a very, very long time. People do not just act strange. Strange is a choice. Strange is a message. And the message they are sending you right now, wrapped in silence, wrapped in half smiles and slow replies, is one of the oldest, cruelest games human beings have ever played on each other. I have lived inside that game. I have bled inside that game. And then I learned its rules. So sit down, get close, because what I am about to tell you, they have been praying every single night that you never find out. You remember the exact moment it started. You just did not realize it at the time. It was not dramatic. It was not a fight. It was not some big, ugly explosion that you could point to and say, there, that is where it broke. No, it was smaller than that, quieter than that. It was a dinner where nobody asked about your day. It was a group chat that went silent right after you joined. It was a plan that got made, and you found out about it after. Oh, the after. That is the part that stays with you, is it not? Not the exclusion itself, but the casual way they moved on, like you were never supposed to be part of the picture in the first place. I remember a Tuesday, just a Tuesday. Nothing special about the calendar, nothing written in red. I walked into a room full of people I had known for years. And something was different. Not the furniture, not the lighting, them. The way they looked at me, or rather the way they worked so hard to look slightly past me, told me everything. I was still standing in the room, but I had already been removed from it. And I smiled. Oh. I smiled so wide my face hurt. Because I had spent so long believing that if I was just good enough, quiet enough, agreeable enough, they would keep me. But you cannot earn a seat at a table that was never built for you. That was my first lesson. Here is what was actually happening in that room, and what is happening around you right now. When people start acting strange, most of them are not even fully aware they are doing it. It is not always a conspiracy. It is not always a plan drawn up in secret, with your name on a board and arrows pointing everywhere. Sometimes it is something far more instinctive, far more animal. They sensed something in you, a shift, a growth, a quiet confidence that was not there before, and it unsettled them. Because here is the thing about people, and I say this with tremendous, almost affectionate cruelty. People are deeply, profoundly comfortable with a version of you that needs them, the version of you that second guesses, the version of you that shrinks in doorways and laughs at jokes that were never funny, the version of you that texts first, apologizes first, breaks first. That version they loved. That version they could manage. But you started changing. Maybe you do not even know how or when. Maybe you just stopped laughing at the unfunny jokes. Maybe you just stopped texting first. Maybe you just sat in your own silence one day and realized, I am not actually happy here. And they felt it. Before you even said a word, they felt it. And the strange behavior, the cold shoulders, the loaded silences, that is not rejection. Oh, no, no, no. That is panic. That is what panic looks like when it wears a social mask. They are not pulling away because you became less. They are pulling away because you became more. And more is terrifying to someone who built their entire comfort around your smallness. I know, because I was surrounded by people like that. People who smiled at my struggles and stiffened at my wins. People who said, I am proud of you, with a mouth that meant something else entirely. You are getting too big for yourself, someone told me once, quietly, like it was a warning. I laughed, not the theatrical kind, a real one, small and tired and sharp as a piece of broken glass, because the sentence they actually meant was, you are getting too big for me to control. And that, right there, that single realization, was the moment everything changed. Not the chaos, not the paint, not the headlines they would eventually write about me. This moment, this quiet Tuesday afternoon moment, where I finally understood that their comfort had always been built on top of my silence, and I had been paying that rent for years. Let me tell you something about the ones who smile the hardest. They are the ones you need to watch the most. Not the person who is openly cold, not the one who rolls their eyes or talks over you. No, that one is honest, at least. Brutally, accidentally honest. The dangerous one. The one who is truly, quietly, surgically dangerous is the one who hugs you the longest and remembers everything. Oh, the ones who remember everything. Every small confession you made at 2 a.m, every insecurity you handed over like a gift wrapped in trust. Every time you said, I do not tell this to many people, but they filed it away. Not out of love, out of inventory. I had one of those. Somebody who knew every room inside me, every crack in the wall, every draft coming through the window. They did not use the information all at once. That would have been too obvious, too loud. Instead, they used it the way water damages a building, slowly, invisibly, one quiet drop at a time. A comment here, a well-timed silence there, a joke at your expense dressed in just enough affection that you felt wrong for flinching. Oh, come on, I am only joking, they would say. And I would nod and smile and file that moment away, the way they had been filing mine. Because here is what nobody teaches you about people who act strange around you. Some of them are not confused about how they feel. Some of them are perfectly, crystallinely clear. They know exactly what they are doing, and the strangeness, the coldness, the distance, the sudden oddness in their behavior is not confusion at all. It is calculation. They are testing how much they can take before you say something. They are measuring your threshold, pressing on the bruise just lightly enough that you question whether you are even allowed to call it pain. And most people, most good, trusting, desperately hopeful people, they fail that test every single time, not because they are weak, but because they are still operating on the assumption that the other person plays by the same rules they do. They assume good faith. They assume that if someone is acting strangely, there must be a reason, a real human, repairable reason. So they reach out. Hey, is everything okay between us? And the other person says, of course. Why would you even ask that? Oh, and there it is. That one line, that single, beautifully weaponized sentence. Why would you even ask that? Suddenly, you are the problem. Suddenly, your perception is the issue. Suddenly, the person doing the damage is the one looking at you with concerned, wounded eyes, and you are the one apologizing. I have been on the receiving end of that sentence more times than I can count, and every single time I walked away smaller. Every single time I handed them a little more of myself to use later, until the day I did not, until the day I looked at that concerned, wounded expression, and I laughed. Oh, a long one this time, because I finally saw it for what it was, a costume, just like mine. Except I wear mine on the outside, where everyone can see it. Theirs is stitched into the skin, invisible to everyone who has not yet paid the price of trusting them. And here is the twist, the one that rearranged something permanent inside my chest the day I understood it. The people doing this to you, most of them learned it. They did not invent it. They did not sit down one afternoon and design a strategy to quietly dismantle you. They learned this behavior the same way they learned to walk, from someone who did it to them first, which makes it almost sad. Almost. Because understanding where a knife came from does not stop it from cutting. And forgiveness. Oh, I have heard such beautiful speeches about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not require you to keep standing in the room where you keep getting hurt. That is not forgiveness. That is just a more poetic way of volunteering. And I stopped volunteering a long time ago. The question is, when will you? Here is something they never put in any book. Silence is not neutral. People treat silence like it is the absence of something, like it is just empty space between words. But silence is a tool. Silence is a sentence. And the people around you right now, the ones acting strange, the ones going cold, the ones giving you that particular brand of distant, polite nothing, they are saying something to you, loudly, in a language they are betting you have not learned yet. I learned it, the hard way, the way you only learn things that truly matter, through repetition, through confusion, through lying awake at 3 a.m, replaying a conversation that lasted 40 seconds and somehow stole 3 hours of your sleep. I remember a phone call that never came. I had been waiting for it, not obsessively, just the way you wait for something that was promised, the way you glance at the door when someone said they would be back by 7. 7 came. Then 8. Then a version of me that had stopped glancing at the door entirely. And when I finally asked, "I never heard from you," the answer was not an apology. The answer was a pause, a carefully constructed, weaponized pause. And then, "I have just been really busy." Oh, busy. That word. That small, smooth, endlessly reusable word that people polish like a stone and slide across the table whenever accountability gets too close. Busy. As if the same person who posted 3 times that day, who watched every single story, who had time for everything and everyone, simply ran out of hours when it came to you. Busy is not a reason. Busy is a ranking. And what they told you, without ever technically lying, is exactly where you sit on their list. Now here is where I need you to stay with me, because this is the part most people get wrong. When they realize they are low on someone's list, they panic, they perform, they become louder, warmer, more available, more impressive. They think, if I can just remind them of my value, if I can just make them see what they are losing, they will come back, they will re-engage, they will act normal again. And sometimes it works. For a little while, the person returns, things feel warm again, and you exhale, grateful, relieved, quietly humiliated in a way you do not fully examine. But here is the twist. Oh, and this one landed on me like a building collapsing in slow motion. When you chase someone back into the room, you have not fixed the dynamic. You have confirmed it. You have just shown them with perfect clarity that the strange behavior works, that distance works, that silence works, that all they have to do, whenever they want your energy, your effort, your desperate reaching out, is simply go a little cold, and you will come running. You have not repaired the relationship. You have handed them a remote control, and from that point forward, whether they know it consciously or not, they will use it. A little coldness when they want attention, a little warmth when they want something else. And you, confused, relieved, never quite sure where you stand, will keep dancing to a song you cannot fully hear. I danced to that song. For years, I danced to it, adjusting my steps every time the rhythm shifted, blaming my own feet when I stumbled, telling myself I just needed to be better at this, more patient, more understanding, more forgiving of the moments that left marks. And one night, just an ordinary, unremarkable night, I stopped dancing. Not dramatically. I did not flip a table. I did not make a speech. I simply stopped moving and stood very still in the silence and listened to it properly for the first time. And what I heard underneath the silence, underneath all the coldness and the distance and the strange shifting behavior, was not mystery. It was not complexity. It was not some deep, painful wound that I needed to be compassionate about. It was indifference, clean, uncomplicated, almost elegant in its simplicity. They were not suffering. They were not conflicted. They simply did not think about me as much as I thought about them. And somehow, oh, somehow, that was the most liberating thing I had ever been told, even though nobody said a single word. The silence told me everything, and for the first time in a long time, I listened. Let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with it, really sit with it, before you rush to an answer. When did you last do something that surprised them, not impressed them, not pleased them, surprised them? When did you last walk into a room and feel them recalibrate? Feel that barely visible flinch of adjustment, because you were not quite what they had prepared for. Because here is what I have come to understand about people who act strange around you. They had a file on you, not a literal one, but a mental one, thick, detailed, organized by category. How you react under pressure, how quickly you forgive, how far you can be pushed before you push back, how much silence you will absorb before you start filling it yourself, nervously, generously, handing them the exact words they need to use against you later. They built a model of you, and for a long time, maybe years, maybe your entire history with them, that model was accurate. Because you were consistent, because you were predictable, because you were safe, in the way that domesticated things are safe. And then something changed. Maybe you started saying no. Not rudely, not with fanfare or rehearsed speeches, just a quiet, clean, undecorated no. Or maybe you stopped explaining yourself, stopped offering the lengthy, apologetic justifications that you used to hand over like a peace offering every time you made a choice they did not approve of. Or maybe, and this is the one that truly unsettles people, maybe you just became happy, not loudly, not performed, just privately, inconveniently, genuinely happy, in a way that did not include them. Oh, that one they cannot forgive. I watched it happen once, up close. A person I knew, someone who had built their entire sense of purpose around being needed, watched someone they loved start to need them less, not because of cruelty, not because of a fight or a falling out, simply because that person had started to heal, had started to build something quiet and solid inside themselves. And the first person, the one who needed to be needed, did not celebrate it, did not say, "I am so glad you are finding your footing." They started acting strange, distant, subtly undermining, casually mentioning past failures in the middle of conversations about progress. "I just hope you know what you are doing," they said, warmly, caringly, like it was concern, and maybe on the surface it was, but underneath, it was grief. The grief of someone watching their power source unplug itself and walk away. And here is the twist, the emotional one, the one I want you to carry with you long after this is over. Sometimes the people acting strange around you love you, genuinely, in whatever broken, landlocked way they are capable of. But their love was always conditional on a specific version of you existing, the version that struggled just enough to need their guidance, the version that doubted just enough to need their reassurance, the version that stayed just small enough to make them feel large by comparison. And that version of you is dying. Maybe it is already dead, and they are grieving it, not you. The version of you they could manage. I know what that grief looks like from the outside. I know what it looks like when someone cannot decide whether to cheer for you or resent you, and so they do neither, and instead they go strange and quiet and slightly unreachable. And for a long time I mistook that strangeness for my fault. I thought, what did I do wrong? What did I change that I was not supposed to change? How do I go back to being the version of me they were comfortable with? And I tried. I actually tried. I made myself smaller again, for a little while, quieter, more apologetic, more available, more careful not to shine in any direction that might cast a shadow on them. And they came back. Oh, they came back immediately, warm and close and familiar, the second I shrunk back down to the right size. And I remember looking at them, feeling their relief wash over me like something almost affectionate, and thinking, so this is the price. This is what I have to keep paying. My growth in exchange for their comfort, my silence in exchange for their presence, my future in exchange for their approval. And I sat with that price for a long time. Turned it over, examined it from every angle, and then I put it down, gently, without drama, without a speech. I simply decided that I was no longer willing to be small on purpose, not for them, not for anyone, not for any amount of warmth or familiarity or the particular comfort of being known by someone, even if what they knew was only a diminished version of me. Because here's the thing about burying a version of yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Eventually, you start to forget which version was real, and that is the most effective way a person can destroy you without ever laying a single finger on your skin. So here we are, you and I, at the part nobody wants to reach, because reaching it means there is no more hiding behind confusion, no more maybe I am overthinking it, no more maybe they are just going through something. You know what is happening. You have known for a while. You just needed someone to say it out loud, in the dark, without softening it into something easier to swallow. So I will say it plainly. The people acting strange around you, they are not lost. They are not confused. They are not waiting for the right moment to come back to you whole and honest and changed. They are waiting to see what you do next. That is all. This entire performance, the silence, the distance, the cold smiles, and the slow replies, it is an audition. And you are the one being watched. They want to know if you will fold, if you will reach, if you will downgrade yourself back to the version they preferred, just to make the strangeness stop. And most people do, not because they are foolish, but because loneliness is a physical thing. It lives in the chest, it has weight, it has temperature, and the cold that comes off a person who is pulling away from you. Oh, that cold is something you feel in the skeleton. I felt it. I know exactly how rational, intelligent, self-aware people end up making irrational choices just to make that particular cold stop, just to feel warm again, even briefly, even falsely, even at the cost of everything they were quietly becoming. I made that choice once. I told myself it was strategy. I told myself I was being patient, playing a long game, staying close until the moment was right. But patience and self-abandonment feel almost identical from the inside. And I did not know the difference until I had already paid the full price of confusing them. Here is the tactical truth, and I want you to absorb this one slowly. The moment you stop reacting to the strangeness is the moment the dynamic dies, not transforms, not improves, dies, because the strangeness only has power while you are responding to it. Every time you chase the silence, you feed it. Every time you perform for their re-engagement, you teach them the performance works. Every time you monitor their behavior, obsess over their signals, reshape yourself in response to their temperature, you give them the one thing they were never supposed to have. Control. Not loud control, not obvious control. The quiet, invisible kind. The kind that lives in the gap between what they do and how fast you react. Close that gap. Not with aggression, not with manufactured indifference. That cold, performative kind that is really just pain wearing a leather jacket. Close it with something far more powerful. Genuine occupation of your own life. I know that sounds almost insultingly simple, but simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is the thing complicated people fear most, because it cannot be negotiated with. It cannot be manipulated. A person who is genuinely, quietly, fully inside their own life, building, creating, healing, moving, is completely unreachable by the kind of behavior I have been describing. Not because they are cold, but because they are full. And you cannot starve someone who has learned to feed themselves. Oh, that is the one they never see coming. They prepare for anger. They prepare for confrontation. They prepare for the wounded version of you that shows up needing answers and explanations and closure. They have the speech ready. They have the expressions rehearsed. They know exactly what to do with your pain because they have been handling your pain for years. But they have absolutely no script for your peace, your quiet, unannounced, unbothered peace. That is the thing that genuinely unsettles them, not because it hurts them, though it might, but because it renders them irrelevant. And irrelevance is the one thing the ego cannot metabolize. It can survive hate. It can survive anger. It can even survive being the villain in someone else's story, because at least in that story it still has a role. But irrelevance is erasure, and you, simply by becoming whole, can erase years of their quiet power over you without saying a single word, without a confrontation, without a breakdown, without even letting them know it happened, just by waking up one morning and choosing, genuinely, permanently choosing, to stop making their behavior the weather you live inside. That is the ethical twist, the one I saved for last, because I spent years believing that the answer to people like this was exposure, was retaliation, was burning things down in ways that were spectacular enough to match the scale of what I felt inside. And I was wrong. Not morally. I have never been particularly interested in morality. Strategically. Because destruction keeps you tied to them. Revenge keeps you in the same room. Even when you win, and there are ways to win, you are still playing their game, on their board, by a set of rules they wrote before you even sat down. The actual move, the one that costs them everything and costs you nothing, is to simply outgrow the game entirely, to become something the game was never designed to contain, and then walk out the door. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a final look over the shoulder, just out, into whatever is waiting on the other side of all this noise. I found something on the other side. I will not tell you it was peaceful. I will not tell you it was simple or clean or free of its own particular darkness, but it was mine, entirely, ferociously, unapologetically mine, and nobody, not one single person, had the blueprint for it, because I had stopped building myself according to their plans. The people acting strange around you right now, they are handing you something, disguised as abandonment, disguised as rejection, disguised as that cold, creeping strangeness that has been keeping you up at night, replaying moments and looking for clues. They are handing you the exact reason you needed to finally, completely stop living for their approval. Take it, not with gratitude, not with forgiveness. If forgiveness is not honest yet, just take it, use it. Build something with it that they will spend the rest of their lives trying to understand. And when they eventually come back, they always come back, smile. Not the wounded kind, not the bitter kind, the kind that makes them suddenly, deeply uncertain about who exactly they are dealing with now. You thought you knew how this story ended. You had no idea it was just beginning.